Yeah. Okay.
So are we live? We are live. Okay, thank you. Tonight we have Athens City Council committee meetings and also a special session. It is Monday, May 24th at 7 p.m. First off, we have a committee at the whole, which is to talk about the CDC guidelines amending 8/4/20. Who would like to take this? I assume Member Grace. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting President Member Fall. For as many people in the community are aware, the CDC recently, I believe on May 13th, released modified guidelines and recommendations regarding mask wearing. And so with that in mind, it is, I believe, appropriate to amend our local mask order. And so what the changes that I'm bringing forward here tonight to talk about are very straightforward. And we're proposing to add a whereas, which is that whereas on May 13th, the Centers for Disease Control stated that, and this is a quote, fully vaccinated people can resume activities without wearing a mask or physically distancing, except where required by federal, state, local, tribal, or territorial laws, rules, and regulations, including local businesses and workplace guidance. And then we are adding the Centers for Disease Control into the whereas that lists the sources on which we're relying for our local ordinance, which includes the Athens City County Health Department, the Ohio Department of Health, and the Centers for Disease Control, that the Centers for Disease Control being the added language. So with that guidance from the CDC, and with this being our first night of committee meetings since that guidance has been released, we would like to additionally add in an exemption to when masks are required. And as people probably remember, there are several exemptions listed in the original ordinance. And the new one states that an individual who has been fully vaccinated against COVID-19 as per current Centers for Disease Control guidelines issued May 13th, 2021. And the only other change to our local ordinance is that it would remain in effect until December 31st, 2021, or by council action rescinding the ordinance. I think that pretty well outlines the changes. Does anyone have any questions or comments that they would like to make?
Great. Jeff?
Oh, has this been run through to the health department? Have they commented on it?
I have not personally spoken with the health department. I don't know if anyone from the administration has.
I have. I've spoken to both Administrator Jack Pepper as well as Dr. Dick Gaskell. And in both conversations, and in particular with Dr. Gaskell, he thought that this was a great idea to include this in the exemption portion of the ordinance.
Okay.
I think it's important to note, and it's stated in the language from the CDC that not only can local laws require mask wearing in situations different than the CDC, but also local businesses. So if there are businesses who, business owners, business managers that make the choice to continue to require mask wearing, they have the option of doing that, and that is an option that is available to them. But the local ordinance is just changing to allow an exemption for individuals who are fully vaccinated.
Good. Come, Member Crowell? Nobody can hear me. Member Crowell?
Yeah, thank you, Member Fall and Member Grace. Thinking through this, I had a discussion with the owners of a local establishment. We're discussing this possibility, and they weren't sure that they were ready yet. To invite the public in without masks. As I understand, Member Grace, it's perfectly up to them, as you just said, to require masks in their establishment. This is about vaccination proof. Those of us who have been vaccinated have our cards, and I'm happy to whip out my card and prove my vaccination at any point. But I'm wondering about, I mean, can local establishments, to your knowledge, require somebody to show their vaccination card, or is there any, are there any sticky situations where somebody says I'm vaccinated and then there's an argument and they can't prove, you know what I mean? Are we going down that road, or are we just letting things kind of happen the way they're going to happen?
My thought on that, Member Crowell, is that it's no more likely that there will be confrontations with an exemption that allows vaccinated individuals to not wear a mask than it was prior to this, because individuals could, if they wanted to create a scene or wanted to be confrontational with a business owner or employee, they could do so by claiming that they had another exemption. And so I think that mostly business employees and business owners opted to avoid those confrontations. And if they asked someone if they could put on a mask, and the individual stated that they had an exemption, a medical reason for an exemption, then they generally let it go with that. But I think my take is that for businesses, and I also had a conversation with some individuals from a local business who want to continue having their customers masked, that probably the easier thing is just to say we require all customers to be masked, rather than and making that their business policy, rather than saying, well, if you show us your vaccination card, then you don't have to wear a mask. But that's just my initial thought on it. And as far as they could ask for vaccination cards, because if I or you show someone, if we share our medical records, that medical information we make the decision to show it, it is not a violation of HIPAA. We are sharing our medical information by choice. And businesses could ask for that if they want to. But that I just, my gut feeling is that there won't be any increased likelihood of confrontations at this point than there was previously.
Okay, thank you. I'd just like to add that, as I said, I'm fully vaccinated, and I am feeling very good that I am fully vaccinated, and I would recommend to anyone in the city of Athens or anyone on this globe to have the vaccination. Having said that, however, I'm also, I don't know what the percentage of our community that is fully vaccinated, and I would recommend to the public that we ease into this, or ease out of this and into the new reality. I'm not in a hurry to go back just the way things were. And I would hope that the community also realizes that there is still a risk out there, and we're not out of the woods yet, and we should still continue to be careful. Thank you, Member Grace.
Great.
I concur with what Member Crowell said. I'm fully vaccinated. I strongly encourage anyone who does not have a medical reason to not be vaccinated to get the vaccine, but I still continue to wear my mask when I go in businesses. And I know people who are masking because they found last year that they had much reduced allergy symptoms, and so there are other reasons for masking too. And so I would encourage members of the public to just accept that masking can be a very, very good idea, and is preventative for things even apart from COVID. So there are even vaccinated individuals who will continue to mask in situations, and that could be a good thing.
Great. Other council members? I'd like to follow up with what Sam says. For some people in our community, masking is saving their life because they may be immune compromised, maybe going under chemotherapy and those sort of things. So by continuing to mask, you are protecting other more vulnerable people, and also people who are younger than we can give vaccinations to. So I'm fully vaccinated. What makes me even more excited was when my kids were fully vaccinated, and that made it much more free breathing for everybody. So get that vaccine, please. Mayor Patterson, you had a comment?
I do. To Sam's question or comment about the percentage of individuals vaccinated in Athens County. In terms of those having completed, we are at 35.74%, and anybody can get this information from the Ohio Department of Health. In terms of first dose administration, we're looking at a little more than 39% of the county population. For the state of Ohio, it's 44.31% that are one dose, and then it's 38.84% for completely vaccinated in the state of Ohio. One of the things I would like to share, if I may, Council, I was just on a conference earlier today with a fellow mayor, the mayor of Guelph, Canada. And right now, Canada and Toronto are experiencing their third surge in COVID-19 cases, and they are currently at 48.2% vaccinated. I just share that in that we're not out of the woods with the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm certainly concerned in talking with other mayors across the border in what they're dealing with. They are currently on stay-at-home orders, much like we were back in March, April, and May, I believe, of 2020. Again, we're not out of the woods with the pandemic. I know it's nice and sunny and warm, and everyone wants to get out and about and join with their friends and families and everything, but which is fine, especially if you're fully vaccinated. But it's not inconceivable for the state of Ohio or any state in the United States to experience a third surge.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other council members, administration? Great. We have one person, an attendee. Scott, do you have a question? Please state your name and your address. Thank you. You might have to unmute.
Yeah, my name is Scott. I'm at 7 Blossom Lane in the Plains.
Okay. Scott, you need, can we have your last name?
Dunphy.
Thank you. Okay.
My question is your ordinance states that it's your mask is only as good as Executive Order 2020-01D, and that will be rescinded June 2nd. So what are your plans?
That's included in the amendment tonight, that the amended order will remain in effect until December 31st, 2021, or by council action rescinding the order. So that section is part of tonight's amendment.
So wasn't it the original auspice that it was just for the executive order, a turn of the pandemic? Now that it's no longer a pandemic and everything's been rescinded, I mean, you need to proceed with sticking with a mask ordinance? Kind of confused.
We are following the guidelines of the CDC, and I think that the CDC has recommended that unvaccinated individuals continue to mask, and that is the change that is being included in this ordinance.
Yeah, is it going to go to a vote for the? I'm just kind of confused because it was originally put down as as a pandemic, and with the executive order, and now it just seems like you're extending it, that it's no longer executive order.
There is very much still a global pandemic.
Yeah,
That's
so
what
the pandemic. Exactly. So thank you. We will bring it up tonight for first reading, and we will have a discussion. Seeing no other people in the attendees, are there any other questions? Great, thank you. Committee of the Whole. Okay, next is the Finance and Personnel Committee. And this is chaired by Councilmember Crowell. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Fall, President Fall. First item on our agenda tonight is the hiring freeze. I believe everyone is aware that during the early days of the pandemic, we passed an ordinance that asked the city administration to review hiring for positions with city council. And we are at a position now where the city city administration would like to move forward in a more efficient manner with filling positions that are currently in the 2021 staffing ordinance. So this is not creating new positions and hiring for those. It is filling many of the positions that have been left unfilled. We were being very careful with our budget. After discussion with the law director, actually it was a resolution, not an ordinance. Resolution does not need to be rescinded. It can be removed by a simple motion on our June 7th meeting. So if there's any discussion about a 7th removal of the freeze resolution passed by City Council, would anyone like to chime in on this? Yes, Member Reisner.
I just want to say, I think it's about time we did this. There's a lot of projects and just simple maintenance that we're falling behind on. I mean, I can see it driving around, even in my neighborhood, simply because we don't have the personnel to do those jobs, and the personnel that we do have are stretched to as thin as we can make them, and they're starting to burn out. And it's time to bite the bullet and get some more bodies here and get things done. So I'm all for rescinding it.
Thank you, Member Reisner. Member Smedley.
I would agree with Member Reisner and appreciate that we have this in place for when we needed it. And every time that I recall positions being brought forward, they were all essential, they were all needed. And so there was never any question, even when we did have this in place. But yeah, I agree. We've come to a point where we can go ahead and remove this, and just appreciate that collaboration during that time of need.
Member Fall.
Thank you. I'd first like to say thank you to all the employees who've been pulling through when people have had to retire or for whatever reasons because a lot of people worked really super hard over the last year. And I really appreciate the employees who've done that for the city. They're true public servants. And I also want to say thank you to the mayor and the administration, because this is really hard. You know, just like when Paul Weil was mayor, we were going through similar sort of economic meltdowns. And I'm proud to say that we didn't lay off people. And I'm proud to say that this is the same thing with careful management and stewardship of our money, respecting the idea that we pay a living wage and union wages for our employees and our contracts, because that's who we are, and the careful management. And I'd like to say thank you.
Thank you, Member Fall. I would agree with all the comments. I also would like to thank the city administration. I think this time period allowed us all to be better stewards and better careful managers. I think our biggest fear going into the pandemic, besides the health of citizens, was the health of the city economically. And I think that we managed it well. And I think now is a time to begin to move in terms of the city finances in these positions to be out of the hiring freeze and allowing the city administration to go back to business as usual when it comes to hiring. Other points, other questions? We'll see that on June 7th. The next item is an auditor's office reorganization. The auditor's office traditionally has a tax administrator and an assistant. The auditor is proposing, the tax administrator position is currently open. And the auditor is thinking that her office would be better served, instead of having one tax administrator and one assistant, having two tax administrators. The auditor has proposed that the current tax administrator position a grade 8, and she was proposing possibly two tax administrators in grades 6 or 7. So this is a discussion, and we may want to move directly to Auditor Hecht. She did note that the auditor's office has talked with the HR director. And the auditor would continue to work with the HR director. Council is agreeable to the reorganization. But this would also not only require changes to the staffing ordinance and pay grades, but a change in city code. Are there any questions here? Maybe we'll give the auditor a chance to. Would you like to talk to council?
Hello, Sam. You did a really good job. So if anybody has a question, looks like Jeff does.
Yeah, Member Reisner.
But this second tax administrator, is that a whole new position, an additional staff person? Or is it a current staff person that's going to be reorganized, reclassified, and doing something else instead of what they're doing now?
It's the current staff. We have 2 people in the tax department. That would still be 2 people. But instead of having one person as the administrator and the other person as an assistant, we would like to put them at the same, be more like 2 tax administrators, as you said. We can change the titles and things like that. But as you know, we have 1 payroll administrator for the city. We have 1 accounts payable person. And when you only have 1 person doing certain duties and they're not available, you know, anybody can get sick in a car accident, whatever, or they leave for another job, then it's really a struggle to be able to do their work if both people, for me in tax, aren't involved in all the duties, instead of you know, the tax administrator doing certain things and then the assistant doing certain things. There's, I'd like it to be more shared. Things have changed over the years in tax. The state laws have changed, and I'd like to try this. I really would. And the thing is, if council is okay with this, and if you have any other questions, anytime as we go along, but our tax administrator position is vacant right now as of last week. So we'd like to move this along, but I would like 2 people doing tax work. I'd like them to share more of the same duties, which some of them, as you know, we are pretty heady, you know, according to the laws, working with the state, making sure our tax code is in line with changes and things like that. I'd like for both people in there to have that. So to do that, I'd like to bring the current assistant up, and then we would not have just the one tax administrator. And because that position now would be sharing duties, we could put that position in a lower pay grade. So I think money-wise, which isn't something I've gone too far into because I just wanted to see if this was going to work. As I said, we have communicated with the HR director. I think it's probably going to be a wash by doing that. So I can get more information, but I guess I'd like to know how everybody feels.
Member Smedley?
Thanks for that explanation, in order to heck. So the hypothetical situation that you described is actually one that you're in right now. It sounds like.
Yes,
So,
yes, exactly.
I see. So
There's a lot of things that, you know, the tax administrator did that the assistant doesn't really know anything about. And there are a lot of things that we do online with the state and with the banks. And we have tokens for our accounts and just a lot of complicated banking that we do. And it would, I'd like to have more than one person in tax able to do that. But if you give someone additional duties and responsibilities like that, then, you know, their pay grade should go up at least one level. And so, and then because of the tax administrator we have position would be sharing some of those responsibilities, that position could, you know, go down a level. So.
Thank you for that. It sounds like good planning to have that cross training built into your department. So it makes sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Grace?
Thank you, Member Crowell. Thank you for being here to answer all our questions, Auditor Hecht. So there would no longer be an assistant. They would just be 2 equal. And what was the pay grade, or what is the current pay grade of the assistant? If you don't.
The assistant, is currently in 5.
Okay.
And then the tax administrator is in 8.
Okay. So I'm thinking sort of from the perspective of group projects or like shared work, there always has to, like, at some level, there has to be a division. But what you're proposing is that both staff members know all aspects of the job, all the job responsibilities, but then
we already, yes, we are, sorry to interrupt, but we already tried to do some of that and spread the duties out so that there was a little more learning on each side, you know. Say, for example, we had delinquent taxpayers. Well, sometimes they're business taxpayers, sometimes they're residents, you know, people who live or work here and have to pay their own taxes and things. So if we need both people to understand how to process delinquencies, which there's a legal process, how often we send letters, and if they don't pay, the process for either turning the accounts over to the state attorney general, which has a collection process, or the law director's office, who has been helping us with that for years. And so there's a lot of steps, and it just, to be honest, a lot of what brought this on is our software upgrade that we went through last fall. We finished in November, I think, for tax. And there are a lot of things that we can do on there. The letters we can produce automatically and things like that. And it just makes it easier, and it would, yeah, I have that same reservation, Sarah. I really, really do, that there's got to be a boss. But in reality, I'm the boss. And so,
I just mean more that there has to be
Yeah.
a division of labor.
yes, there does. And we did do a schedule like that, I don't know, February maybe, and tried to mix up the duties on both sides. And so that one person would do, say, delinquencies for businesses and take it through the whole process, law director and everything, and the other person would do the other types of delinquencies and go through the whole process. So that's just one example of things that we do,
Yeah,
that they have to do
that
over
makes
there.
sense, because then both staff members know how to do the process. So if one
Yeah,
needed to
right,
take over for business, when they would know how to do it. It's just for
right.
a different group. So that
Yeah.
makes sense. Thank you.
And it has worked pretty well. So we'd like to try this actual split, and who knows? I am a little bit nervous about it, but everybody else in the office answers to me, and and truly both tax people do, but then there's only that one level of another supervisor in there, and so we think this might help both of them. It also, a fair amount of the work in my office is pretty routine, where you do the same thing. Every 2 weeks, there's a payroll process, and every Tuesday and Friday, Heather processes, vouchers. And it's a little bit the same in tax. And so I think that the employees will be happier if they have some additional things to do, but they're not taking over the whole load of everything. So yeah, I understand totally, Sarah, but I think Leanne and I think we can make this work.
I have faith that you can. I just wondered how.
Well,
but no, you've given good examples of, like, having it split between
Yeah.
business and individuals, but the
we
same
we have lists of things we've already tried to share on that kind of thing. Tax time, who answers the phone calls, who deals with the people that show up in our office, which of course there weren't too many this year, but there were some, and things like that. So they both have the same information to give someone, whether it's in person or over the phone and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you, Auditor. Any other questions for the auditor about moving to 2 tax administrators? Okay, thank you. We will move on. The next item on our agenda for Finance and Personnel is the Outdoor Recreation Council of Appalachia, ORCA. I'm sure you all remember our long, lengthy discussion about the Bailey's Trail System and how to support it in our community. I don't know if you have seen their website recently, but baileystrailsystem.org is just fabulous. Connects to lots of things in the city and the county of Athens. Been working with the Athens County Convention and Visitors Bureau, and I think it's just moving along really, really wonderfully. I was out recently. There are, I believe, 13 trails, which are getting close to 30 miles in length. You can have a wonderful time as a pedestrian, as a walker, or certainly on a bicycle out at the Bailey's Trail System. Quick synopsis of the item for today's meeting, and then I believe we have the executive director of ORCA here today, and I'll turn it over to the mayor here in a minute to introduce Ms. Powers. Basically, the ORCA is moving into a membership structure, and they are looking for members at the municipal level to pay a 1-year membership fee of $90,000, which was the original amount that we had agreed to in our ordinance to support the Bailey's Trail System if the county also met those due levels at the same level as the city. And so the city administration is now looking for council to authorize the mayor to pay this city membership fee for 1 year. I can turn this over to the mayor for more information if he would like to provide that, Mayor.
No, I think you summarized it very well, Sam. You just want to introduce the executive director for Orca and let Jesse Powers jump in.
Hi, thanks, folks. So I do have a few slides if we want to go into some slides and give you guys a kind of an overview, if that's of interest.
Yes,
But
please.
Sam, okay, we'll do that. All right. All right. Are we here? Okay, so this is actually a picture of the Bailey's Trail System. Yep, and Sam's right. We've got 26 miles on the ground, 5 under construction right now. By the end of summer, early fall, we'll have 31 complete. So the Bailey's Trail System project was really born of need in the area, as we're all familiar with. Athens County is the poorest in Ohio, which is also trackable in the childhood poverty rate for the county, largely dependent on one major employer, like much of the region. And historically, we've been underinvested in for decades. So leadership within Athens County, including the city, realizes that trails can be used to activate communities and stimulate growth. So that's really the birth of the Bailey's Trail System project on the Athens unit of the Wayne National Forest, which is over 9,000 acres of property here. So just to highlight the trail system, it will be the longest contiguous trail system east of the Mississippi River, but definitely the largest in the state. It's purpose-built. Most mountain biking trails are adapted extractionist roads mainly. So these were designed by professional trail designers, some of the top in the country. And then they are also professionally built by a machine, which helps with the overall maintenance and sustainability of the trail system. We're in a prime location here in Southeast Ohio. Pre-pandemic, we were within 250 miles of over 1 million mountain bikers, and that the sport has really taken off in light of the pandemic. The Bailey's Trail System specifically is designed for mountain biking, but it's open to all forms of human-powered use. We have adaptive trails, and then we also look to programming these trails for a wide variety of educational and social opportunities. So you've got your breakdown here at the beginner and intermediate and advanced levels. In the state of Ohio, what's really lacking in the overall mountain bike scene is beginner trails and advanced trails. So for us to provide those is definitely filling a niche within the state. So if you look over here on your right, really the Bailey's Trail System project is why Orca exists. And it really was an opportunity where in developing and utilizing our asset with the Wayne National Forest, land managers, local government, and the community kind of came together. And we realized that we really needed an entity to advance this project and make sure that it becomes a reality, which was the birth of the Outdoor Recreation Council of Appalachia. We are a council of governments. We have 6 members. So those are the Athens City, Athens County, Village of Chansey, Village of Bookdale, City of Nelsonville, York Township. Did I say all 6? I think so. So our mission, as you'll see here, is larger than just the Bailey's Trail System, as is our vision. And we really see the opportunity here to expand recreation opportunities throughout the Appalachian region and how that could be a strategy for economic diversification. And our values, which are listed here, community, quality of life, sustainability, innovation, inclusivity, and shared stewardship, really advance everything that we're trying to do. I'll just attract your attention down here to these wheels. If you can see my cursor. So what I was talking about, we are a council of governments consisting of 6 individual members. We have a 19-member advisory board. Those advisory board is appointed by the Orca board. And they're really to be our partners in everything that we're doing as we advance holistic outdoor recreation development. ORCA works in partnership with the Athens Wayne Outdoor Asset Development Corporation, which is a nonprofit in the state of Ohio. We're working on obtaining our IRS status, and really this relationship between the Council of Governments and a nonprofit arm allows us to operate the Bailey's Trail System as a social enterprise so that it's self-sustaining in the long term once we get to that build out. And really ORCA, in partnership with the Athens Wayne Outdoor Asset Development Corporation, is what is necessary to ensure that we're unlocking every federal, state, and private sector investment opportunity in the region. And the end goal here is to build local wealth and improve economic opportunities for residents here. So this is I'll just go through this real quickly. This overlay that you see here, we're looking at the Athens unit of the Wayne National Forest with the Bailey's Trail System overlay. So this proactive approach to utilize our asset has helped us secure over $6 million in federal and state grants, as well as philanthropic donations. And this is going to fund things like the creation of the Domeville Trailhead, which is just opened this weekend. And then it's also creating the phase 2 extension of the Chansey Bikeway, some new sidewalks, extending a sewer line, a big overhaul at the parks coming there soon this year. And this public investment, which we wouldn't be as successful in getting those $6 million of grant funds if we didn't have Ohio's premier mountain biking destination in our backyard, is really all about enabling the private sector to build local wealth. So we're seeing Airbnbs take off. We're seeing people getting new jobs. We're seeing cafes open, and we're seeing a lot of increased activity in real estate in the area, as well as community members excited and out there using the trails on this public land that they hadn't used previously. So this is not just a trail project. This is an asset-based economic development and diversification through a value chain approach. So while we're starting with the Bailey's Trail System, that proactive asset-based development, we realize that we need a system of governance so that we can maintain and manage the Bailey's Trail System, that we're going to have to market this Bailey's Trail System, and that we feel a regional marketing strategy would be more effective for Southeast Ohio in general. We realize that we need to provide technical support to ensure that local residents have opportunities to build wealth around this development. And we realize that we're going to need infrastructure improvements, such as sidewalks and sewer systems that are at full capacity, et cetera. And we really realize that if we have an opportunity here that we don't have very often in this region to holistically activate our community, and that kind of speaks to that 19-member advisory board. And, we're partners with the Athens County Foundation, the public libraries, different recreation user groups, and we're really all just putting our heads together and making sure that we're programming this trail system and leveraging every investment that we can, both public and private. So on the right here, you have the 10-year impact projections of the Bailey's Trail System project. And these are from the feasibility analysis created by Quantified Ventures. And this is just kind of a slide I created to highlight some of the benefits to the trail system. While these trails are not adjacent to the city of Athens, they will be connected by the bikeway one day, and they'll continue to provide a lot of programming opportunities that we feel will be valuable for everyone in our community. ORCA's work in general, a lot of it is spent chasing funding to get this trail system built. So while we've moved away from the pay for success model as a way to develop the trail system, the Council of Governments is actively using every tool in our toolkit really to secure investment from the state of Ohio to complete the trail system. Right now, we have a $2 million earmark in the state operating budget pending. It's passed the House version of the budget, and from what we hear, it sounds like we're going to be all right through the Senate. Fingers crossed. But we feel like this is just kind of the beginning, and the conversations that I've had and engaging the state around this project, I think they're really excited and encouraged by the fact that, people in Appalachian Ohio, specifically the poorest county in the state, have done a lot to advance this project since 2017 and since its inception in 2015, to realize the benefits that it brings, and to be intentional and making sure that we are equitable in dispersing those benefits. So below here are some other grants that we'll be going for. The community project request, since Stivers left and Steve's not running, it's not looking good for that one this year. Maybe next year. Okay. And just to kind of leave you of where we are. So the total number is 6.67 million that's been awarded, those public and private funds since 2017. 26 miles, 5 underway. I've told you that. We've got 2 community trailheads. And then we have 6 members of our local government. In the work that we're doing with the grant applications, we have been beginning to engage other counties in this work, and what we see is outdoor recreation's value to the region. So that's exciting. Hopefully we continue to grow on kind of all those buckets. So we have a lot of grants pending, and then we're working to advance an impact investment with the Athens County Foundation and a few others. We're working to develop the site plan for the Bookville Trailhead. And then again, doing that scaling regionally. Just leave you guys here with a list of some of the awards the projects received to date. And I can send this out because these are live links and you guys can feel free to check those out. But those are just a few slides that I had prepared today, and I'm happy to go in depth and answer questions about any aspect of this. I know that was a lot to throw at you really quickly, but I'll happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Director Powers. Any questions for, yes, Member Fall?
Thank you for the presentation. I think that's great. This is similar to a certain extent of what we do with other organizations, that multiple groups like Ohio University, the county and the state, the county and the city all join together. And what, the Visitors Bureau is one of them. The Economic Development Council is another one. So this is not that different than those sort of commitments. We also require a certain type of reporting from those different entities. And so I want to make sure that those similar sort of reporting and presentation and sort of processes are also put into any sort of contract that we write. Thank you.
Yeah, Member Smedley.
Thanks, Member Crown, Director Powers. So the last time we talked about investing as a city into the Baileys, it was under that pay for success model. Is that correct? Where yeah, okay. So at that time, there was concern about committing to long-term investment without fully knowing what our financial standing would be as a city into the future. So this proposal is just for 1 year, 90,000, and then what happens after that 1 year? Are we asked to then renew, I assume? Okay.
Yeah. And the way
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The way we wrote our bylaws is that we would like for them to be paid in 3-year increments at some point in the future. But for right now, we're just going with 1 year.
That's been set as precedence because for a while, the Economic Development Council also paid per year with more reporting requirements during those 1 year increments. And then after some things were settled and stuff, then it went to 3 years, back to 3 years. So it's kind of, I think it's kind of like a trial run, right?
Thank you for that. And just then my other question is just financially as a city, I assume this is something we can afford, even though we are coming out of the pandemic and still sort of figuring out our finances with that impact. So I see the mayor has his hand up, so I'll let him chime in.
Just as a reminder, we're under the pay for success model. If we were going to go down the 20-year path of paying $90,000 in lockstep with the county, our share would have come from the transient guest tax before it enters into the general fund, or that's basically the mechanism, was through the transient guest tax. I've had a conversation with one of our larger hotel owners locally, actually two, and that they are seeing, kind of an uptick. I shouldn't say a tick. They're seeing a lot more people coming and staying and heads in beds, which is a good sign as well that we will start to see some growth in our own transient guest tax. And so that's basically where this money would come from. Again, it wouldn't come from taxpayer dollars here in the city of Athens. It would come through the transient guest tax, much as the pay for success model was going to be.
Got it. Thank you. And one last comment. I have experienced the Baileys personally, fully appreciate everything that it's trying to do and what it could potentially be for our region. And so, I'm in support of financially supporting the Baileys so long as it fits within the city's budget. And appreciate everyone's presentation tonight.
Member Reisner?
Yeah, a couple of questions or statements. For $90,000, what specifically is the city getting for that 90,000? I mean, a seat at the table, is that essentially it? Some input that way?
Well, I answer to the Orca board, which is those members. So yes, in that regard. And then our primary objective at this time is to ensure that we can be able to complete the Bailey's Trail system. So as is the only existing grant program that would fund this trail system in the state of Ohio, is capped at $150,000 a year. At that rate, I mean, we're not gonna get those projected 10-year impacts.
Well, another thing, if we go from a 1 year to a 3 year payment scheme, I assume it'd be 3 times 90, $270,000. Whether or not it's coming out of the general fund or the transient guest tax, that's quite a chunk. I'm wondering how to prepare for that. Do we set up an internal fund and put money in there every year to build it up? Or do we just say, well, it's the 3rd year, we'll find the money some way, and we'll just take a hit off the transient guest tax? Mayor?
No, I would say that much like the existing ordinance, it says if the county and the city were to be in this together, that we would be paying for 20 years, Councilmember Reisner. This instead is a membership that it'll be start at 1 year. And if it gets to the point where it could extend beyond 1 year to 3 years, again, it would come from the transient guest tax, which we anticipate seeing further growth in the transient guest tax as that comes in.
Right.
But the other thing I feel strongly about in terms of the membership is that we again are in lockstep with the county paying in on the membership. Now, if the county can only pay year to year, we may be paying year to year for quite some time. That is unknown by me anyway, and I can certainly find out as to whether the county can do longer term memberships or if they have to do them year to year. Again, I don't know if Jesse Powers has an answer to that question or not.
Yeah, they can do 3 years, but I think with the city too, they were kind of more comfortable with 1 year at this time. And just fiscally, that was a more palatable option for them.
Currently, we do budget for other memberships that we, again, the Athens County EDC was mentioned. That's something we budget for. It's $60,000 a year. And it is for continuing to have an expanding economic portfolio here in the city of Athens and Athens County.
We'll go to the auditor here in just a second, and Member Grace too. I just wanted to ask to follow up on Member Reisner's question. If we do eventually get to a 3-year agreement, would Orca want all 3 years paid at one time at the beginning of that? Or is it still going to be $90,000 a year, just as an agreement that we've done? So it still would be $90,000 a year, so the TGT can continue to pile up and we can use that. I see the mayor shaking his head. Is that right, Director?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go to Member Grace first, and then we'll go to the auditor.
Thank you, Member Crowell. And thank you, Ms. Powers, for that presentation and for packing a whole lot of information in quickly. I really appreciate that. And I personally am much more comfortable with this ask of the city because it only for sure commits us to the financial obligation for 1 year, and also is we know it will be $90,000. It won't be more if we see more growth in our transient guest tax, and so I appreciate the effort that has gone into adjusting the model, because I'm sure that it's been significant work, and so I as someone like feeling responsible for protecting the city's financial position and having just experienced a pandemic that we could have seen some really devastating financial impacts from that. I appreciate the option of committing to a year at a time, and with looking towards hopefully being able to commit to 3 years at a time, but pay 1 year at a time. And I'm gathering from some of the things the mayor is saying, would our membership or our commitment to pay remain contingent on the county? As like the existing ordinance, what was approved before, we only paid if the county did, if the county approved it also. So would our membership and annual commitment be contingent on the county matching that, or not?
Not matching it, but paying as we roll forward, because Orca, just to take a step backwards, I mean, Orca is unique when it comes to outdoor recreation and having a council of governments, that are supportive of outdoor rec. There's lots of cogs out there, Buckeye Hills is a cog. There's lots of them out there, but very few, if any, that are separate political subdivisions that have come together for the point of enhancing outdoor recreation like the Bailey. And so with this membership, again, I feel strongly that, we're paying if other paying members are paying as well, if that makes sense.
Right. So if they didn't pay, they would
Sorry.
not be a member pursuant to the bylaws.
Member Fall?
I think it's important with the spirit of what happened with the pay-to-play plan, because people were very uncomfortable with that sort of model. I think that now we see a lot more benefit accruing to us as a region and a city, and fulfilling those missions and values that have been established. I think the Orca model came out of that whole discussion is so much more powerful for our region, as opposed to some of the models that were presented to us by like Quantified Adventures. So I think that this is a really good process. I think that going forward with a 1-year program is a smart idea to see. And then building on that and our kind of regional partners going forward with that. So I appreciate all the work that's been done with this and going forward from what happened a couple of years ago. So thank you.
Auditor, would you like to chime in? Yes, please.
Sure, why not? This kind of goes back to Jeff's comments. So currently the way our transient guest tax works is half of it goes into the enhancement fund or tourism fund, sorry, we have a tourism fund, and that 50% is forwarded to the Athens County Convention and Visitors Bureau by law. We used to put more of it in there and then use it for whatever projects we wanted, but really we're required to put the other half into the general fund, which is what we do now. And now we pay the EDC out of that also. Now, going back to 2019, our transient guest tax revenue for that year was $425,000 or so. And so half of that for the ACCVB was about 215,000, and that same amount for us. So if you look at the 90,000 and the 60, include that in it, because we've always included that as what that money was for. That's about 150,000. So it's not really an additional tax for us, you might say, but that's what we would be using it for. Another thing you asked about what's our benefit, and it's true that this trail is not in the city limits. However, I agree that with people who think that we would benefit, I always look up the road to Hocking Hills, and there have been a myriad of cabin rentals and little candle shops and things pop up, zip lines. But if you also look at the things that have popped up on that west end of Logan, and where everybody goes to get their groceries, et cetera, Walmart, Kroger's, all of that stuff is down there. And other things like the antique shop and, even Goodwill, Dairy Queen, all of that stuff has popped up in Logan within their city limits. So we would expect that Athens would enjoy some of those benefits that wouldn't really be able to be built, out where these trailheads are, such as a strip mall or anything like that. So, anyway, I think that's, I can't really speak for other people, but that was the discussion before when we were considering the other pay to play, the 20-year commitment. And so, yes, and the payments will be made yearly, just as it is with the EDC, and not all at once. Thank you.
I want to pop in that you can take the city bus out to Chansey now, and you put your bicycle on it, so you could actually go from Columbus via Go Bus, get down here, then get on the city bus and go ride your bike without having a car. We're like super accessible, and this is, the tourism aspects of this is large. So we have a bus and we can get people there. And that's awesome because that's also a lot more sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Fall. And as Director Powers mentioned, there also are plans for a bikeway spur to Chansey from the existing bikeway. There's a bridge to build and a lot of things to do, but you one day will be able to get on your bicycle on Sunnyside Drive and ride it to Chansey very safely, and that's super exciting. So it's also great, obviously, for the community of Chansey. The Athens Bicycle Club has started a recycle donation of bicycles to many people in Chansey, and so there's a lot of things happening, and I think it's terrific. And I'll just note too, if you are a New York Times reader, the Bailey's Trail System was just featured 3 days ago in the New York Times. In fact, our Ohio University's head coach of field hockey was pictured prominently riding her bike in Bailey's. So it's getting some news, it's getting some marketing, and I think that's going to bring people to Athens too. Anything else for Director Powers or anything else on the ORCA membership? Mayor Patterson.
Just to share, I know that Director Powers mentioned this, is that, we're hoping that things will come across the finish line for the $2 million from the state budget to go directly towards trail construction on the Baileys. Another way to think about this, year to year, even if it's just 1 year of membership, that's for every dollar of the 90,000, there's $22 that could, I have to say could, be coming in from that 2 million. Or if we did it for 3 years, it's still a 7-to-1. You know, it's in some ways, it's showing that Athens and Athens County, you know, is willing to invest into this trail system, and showing that we see the value of what the full built out trail, 88 miles, we're seeing it now with just the 26 miles of trail that we'll see it as it continues to grow. So just another way to think about it is almost as a, I won't call it a match, but it's showing that we are investing in the trail system, and hopefully the state will continue to also invest in the trail system.
Member Smedley?
Thanks. One last question for Director Piles. Director Powers. Are you joining us from the Baileys by any chance?
No, this is my yard. I wish.
Oh, it would have been great if you were though.
One day soon. I should have an office in Chansey. Yeah. But yeah. No, thank you all so much for your support. And I think you guys, you get it. And I'm really excited to advance this conversation at the state level. I feel like we've got this unique opportunity where our local government, you know, leading our citizens proactively is really ready to change economic opportunities here for the better. So, you know, thank you guys all for your leadership and support.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our last item in finance and personnel, appropriations and transfers. A few items to discuss here. The first are appropriation and transfer for some CDBG administrative fees in the amount of $7,383.38. And that will be distributed across 4 different funds, depending on where those administrative fees have been for those grants. Any questions on that appropriation and transfer? Okay, moving on. There is a need in council chambers for new laptops. The current laptops that we have were purchased used in 2015. They are Chromebooks. And Mr. Thompson has found a good deal for new laptops. They have $3,000, but they would be able to replace the computers with a total of approximately $5,000. So they're looking for a $2,000 appropriation to purchase new laptops. Are there any questions about that appropriation? We'll be looking to introduce that on June 7th. Okay, thank you. And finally, the Athens Police Department, one of the cruisers is in need of a new wireless modem. The chief of police indicated that it is for the car computer in number 902. The current modem is out of date and malfunctioning, should be about $1,000 roughly. The city garage will be able to install it once received. So that is a wireless modem for a police cruiser. Okay, that I believe is the last item for appropriations and transfers. Yes, Auditor Hecht, please. Did I forget something?
Maybe not. I asked for an amendment
Oh,
to
for
one of the
65.
ordinances tonight. Do we need to discuss that now or wait till you?
I'm not sure of the procedure, Auditor Hecht. I was going to bring it up when the ordinance was read for the
Okay,
time and then go from there.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the reminder. Okay, that finishes Finance and Personnel, Interim President Fall.
Thank you. Now we're going into a special session. Thank you. Establishing a quorum. All members are present. We are doing just special sessions have certain rules. We don't do communications or anything like that. We read through the ordinances that are up for whatever reading they are. Right now we have several ordinances for second reading. Second reading, we don't usually take conversation or questions, but if there is, let me know and we can air it. So, ordinance 6221, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a 10-year lease agreement with the United Seniors of Athens County for space utilization in the community center, introduced by Councilmember Crowell. 6321, an ordinance amending the general fund administrative costs allocation policy established by ordinance 6715, introduced by Member Crowell. 6421, an ordinance amending the internal service fund cost allocation policy established by ordinance 12415, introduced by Councilmember Crowell. Thank you. Ordinance 6521, an ordinance amending the 2021 appropriation ordinance and authorizing the auditor to make an interfund transfer, introduced by Councilmember Crowell. Would you like to?
I'd like to make a motion to amend 065. It turns out that the auditor's office has realized we need an additional appropriation in the water fund following the transfer. Auditor Heck, did you want to speak to this?
Well, why don't we get through the amendment process?
Oh, okay,
So,
sorry.
we have a second. Thank you, Member Grace. Reasons for it? Thank you.
We have an additional appropriation we need for this ordinance.
Great. Thank
For
you.
loan payment, last year we took on a new water loan, but we didn't know the payments. This happens sometimes where we don't know what our payment's going to be. They set it, and so it wasn't in the budget. So this new loan that is starting, we're starting payments this year. We need $160,000 to make that payment July 1st. And so we had already appropriated money in the water fund to transfer. We're already spending about $197,000 or $200,000 on water OWDA payments. So we thought we were getting ahead of the game a little bit and appropriating and transferring now from the water fund to the water debt fund for our January 1st payment, because that money is pulled from our account the night before, and we won't have the budget in place January 1st, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to do that. So I will likely be coming back towards the end of the year to help with that. But right now, then we got our notification of all the payments that we're making, water and sewer, for OWDA. They warn us when they're about to pull all this money from our bank account, which I will tell you the total amounts that we're paying in these loans is $811,953, really $954. So that's the total between water and sewer that we will be paying January 1st for OWDA loans. As I said, 160,000 plus will go for the new loan, which will now be on your updated debt schedule when we get that done. But anyway, so what we need on this ordinance, if you're looking at 65, is we have appropriations, and then we have a transfer from the water fund to the water debt fund. But we need an appropriation after that, which we usually have in ordinances. That would be appropriating that $200,000 in the debt fund to pay for this new loan amount.
Great. Okay. So the amendment is to increase the level of debt fund extraction that we're doing. Thank you. Questions? Comments? All those in favor of amending 6521, please say aye.
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 Noes, please say nay. Great. Thank you. So the ordinance has been amended and read for the first time. Do we need to do any sort of, okay, thank you. We'll go on. Ordinance 6621, an ordinance authorizing a contract for right-of-way acquisition services for the West Union Street Improvement Project number 322, introduced by Councilmember Crowell. 6721, an ordinance closing a portion of Union Street between Court and College on Tuesday, June 15, 2021 from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., welcoming the National Vulcan Riders Association, NVRA, and declaring an emergency. And this was introduced by Councilmember Crowell. I'd like to say that the question about dates have been answered and that all the language in the ordinance is correct. So, thank you. And 6821, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a sub-recipient contract with Ohio University, authorizing the expenditure to implement a wastewater-based COVID surveillance program and declaring an emergency. This is introduced by Councilmember Grace. Thank you. 6921, an ordinance authorizing design engineering services for the water treatment plant softener rehabilitation project number 338, which is also introduced by Councilmember Grace. Thank you. Ordinance 7021, an ordinance authorizing the disposal of certain fire department equipment no longer needed for a municipal purpose, introduced by Councilmember Grace. 7121, an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title I general provisions to add Title 43 fees to include a fee for a historic preservation design review application, introduced by Councilmember Fall. 7221, an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title III administrative provisions, unlawful discriminatory practices, introduced by Councilmember Smedley. Now we get to ordinances for the first reading. 7321, an ordinance amending Ordinance 8420, Athens City Code Section 9.11.10, face coverings in public spaces, and declaring this ordinance an emergency measure, introduced by all council members. Member Grace, can you take this, please?
Yes, Member Fall, I would like to make a motion that we suspend the rules for this ordinance.
Great. Member Smedley, a second. Thank you.
The reason for the suspension is that we would like this change to go into effect as quickly as possible, as the CDC did not give us a month or any sort of heads up for changing their guidelines. So, but we would like to respond and reflect their guideline changes as quickly as possible. And so that would mean adopting the ordinance tonight at our first opportunity.
Great. Other discussion? Thank you. All in favors of suspending the rules, say aye.
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 No? None. Thank you. Suspension is now in order.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 7321.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
I'll second. Okay. We've discussed this earlier in the our committee meeting. I think that this is a good opportunity to say Athens has followed the science, have followed the people who are directing us from the science. And I think that this makes sense going forward. Member Grace?
I agree. From a perspective of how viral transmission works and how wonderfully effective the vaccines are, this absolutely follows the science that we have on COVID-19, and that fully vaccinated individuals do not necessarily need to be masked, but those who are not fully vaccinated should continue to mask.
Great, thank you. Any other question? Okay, all in favor of adopting 7321, please say aye.
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 Unanimous for adoption. Thank you. That ends our special session for this evening. We do need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Members Medley, thank you. All in favor? Say
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion moves. Thank you, everybody, for being.
Good
Nice job,
night.
Tracy.
Good night.
Good night. Good